You're lying in bed on Sunday night. Your phone is in your hand and the calendar for the week ahead is open. Every meeting is where it should be. Every deadline has room to breathe. You know what tomorrow looks like at 8 at noon and at 4. Then your partner rolls over. Hey, I forgot to mention, my mom is flying in Wednesday. Something inside you goes still. Your fingers tighten around the phone. You are not angry with her. You like her mom. You know it is only 3 days. But your nervous system has already started sprinting. The week is gone. Not literally. Nothing has actually fallen apart. But the version of the week you had already lived inside your head no longer exists. And now your body is reacting as though something important has been taken away. You know how unreasonable this might sound out loud. That is part of what makes it so exhausting. Because this pattern rarely looks dramatic from the outside. It looks like a pause, a tightened jaw, a quiet change in tone, the soft drop you feel when someone rearranges a piece of your world without asking. Maybe you are the person who plans a road trip down to the gas stations 3 states in advance. Then a friend says, let's just drive and see what happens. And suddenly the trip no longer feels relaxing. It feels unsafe. Maybe you are completely comfortable with an 8-person meeting. Then someone adds one unexpected name to the invitation. And it is not a meeting anymore. It is an ambush. For some people, control is not about power. It is the closest thing their body has to safety. This pattern usually appears in 4 forms. The first looks productive. The second looks cautious. The third is almost invisible. And the fourth often began long before adulthood. The first is the optimizer. The optimizer does not simply like plans. They need the plan to remain intact. They organize the day, the room, the route, the timing, and the order in which things should happen. From the outside, this can look like discipline, efficiency, competence. But underneath it is often a low tolerance for open loops. Psychologists sometimes connect this pattern to a need for cognitive closure. When uncertainty feels slightly dangerous, the brain tries to close the gap before anything can change. This is why the optimizer checks the menu before arriving at the restaurant. It is why they want to know where everyone is sitting when everyone is leaving and what happens after. It is why they sometimes look up the ending of a show before they have finished watching it. Knowing what comes next allows their body to stop bracing. For the optimizer, control is not a preference. It is traction. A loose plan can move. And if it can move, they can be caught off guard. So they tighten every screw they can reach. They build routines. They prepare early. They remove variables. They tell themselves this is simply what responsible people do. And sometimes it is. But there is a cost. The optimizer may become so skilled at preventing disruption that they also prevent surprise play and discovery. They cancel spontaneous dinners. They avoid weekends with no structure. They say no to experiences that cannot be mapped in advance. And because their life remains orderly, they may not notice how small it has become. They believe they are protecting their peace. But often they are protecting themselves from ever having to release control. And rest requires release. That is why the optimizer can complete everything on the list and still never feel finished. The second type is the contingency planner. The optimizer wants the plan to stay intact. The contingency planner assumes it will not. This person does not necessarily hate surprises. They hate having no response ready when the surprise arrives. Tell them you are excited about a trip, and they may not immediately become excited with you. They will ask, did you check the reviews for the second hotel? What happens if the flight is delayed? Do we have travel insurance? What is the backup plan? To a spontaneous person, this can feel pessimistic. It can feel as though every good moment is being interrogated before it is allowed to begin. But inside the contingency planner's mind, hope without preparation feels irresponsible. They do not see uncertainty as an experience. They see it as a problem that has not yet been solved. If a risk can be predicted, it can be prepared for. If it can be prepared for, it cannot become a catastrophe. So before they enter a room, they look for the exits. Before they trust a plan, they imagine its failure. Before they enjoy a moment, they quietly calculate what could ruin it. They are not trying to drain the joy from the experience. They are trying to stop the joy from becoming regret. This often creates tension in relationships. One person says, "Why can't you just be excited with me?" The contingency planner thinks, "I am excited. This is how I make sure your excitement does not end badly." Preparation becomes their form of love. But love can begin to feel like surveillance when every possibility is treated as a threat. And when every risk must be priced in before life can begin, much of life passes before they feel ready to enter it. The third type is quieter, the internal rehearser. This kind of control does not always organize the outside world. It organizes the mind. Every conversation is replayed. Every future interaction is scripted. Every memory is reviewed for the sentence they should have said instead. At 2 in the morning, they are still thinking about a text they sent 6 hours ago. They know the message was fine. They know the other person is probably not upset. But their mind keeps returning to the wording, the timing, the punctuation, the face the other person might have made while reading it. They imagine tomorrow's conversation. Then they imagine the conversation going badly. Then they prepare a response to the imagined bad response. This mental rehearsal can feel productive because the mind is doing something. It feels like preparation. It feels like protection. But the rehearsal is rarely about the conversation itself. It is about preventing shame, preventing rejection, preventing the moment when someone misunderstands them and they do not know how to repair it. They are not only rehearsing what to say, they are rehearsing a version of themselves that cannot be caught unprepared, a version that cannot be embarrassed, a version that cannot be rejected. Stopping the rehearsal would mean accepting that they cannot control what another person thinks. And that can feel like taking their hands off the wheel while the car is still moving. From the outside, they may look calm, thoughtful, quiet. But inside, they are running simulations their nervous system refuses to release. Not because they enjoy overthinking, because some part of them believes one more rehearsal might finally make the future safe. Then there is the fourth type, the sentinel. The sentinel's need for control is not really about control. It is about being unable to stop watching. On the outside, they often look dependable, organized, unusually calm under pressure. They are the person who says, "It's fine, I've got it." And they mean it, even at 3 in the morning, even while sick, even while carrying far more than anyone realizes. But for some people, this readiness began in a home where things could change without warning. A parent's mood could shift. An argument could begin. Someone could leave. Someone could disappear emotionally while still sitting in the same room. And no one explained what was happening. So the child learned to watch the change in a parent's voice, the footsteps at the wrong hour, the door closing slightly harder than usual, the silence that lasted 1 second too long. They learned that danger does not always announce itself. Sometimes it enters quietly. Sometimes it begins with a look. Sometimes the only protection available is noticing it first. So they became good at noticing. They learned to read rooms, to predict moods, to solve problems before anyone asked, to stay ready. Years later, people call them strong, reliable, the one who always has everything under control. But their competence may be built on an early warning system that never fully powers down. When someone offers to take something off their plate, they do not always hear kindness. They hear risk. What if the other person forgets? What if they miss something? What if everything falls apart during the one moment they stop paying attention? Rest feels like complacency. Comfort feels like lowered defenses. Letting go feels less like relief and more like switching off the headlights in fog. The sentinel is not guarding the task. They are guarding the ability to see something coming. Because once seeing it coming may have been the only power they had. That is the thread connecting all 4 types. The optimizer seals every opening. The contingency planner prepares every exit. The internal rehearser predicts every response. The sentinel listens for the first sign of change. Different behaviors. Same hidden wish. To be the one who sees it coming first. Because if you see it first, maybe it cannot overwhelm you. Maybe it cannot embarrass you. Maybe it cannot leave you helpless. Maybe you can remain one step ahead of the pain. But control has a cruel limitation. It can organize the future. It cannot guarantee it. It can reduce risk. It cannot remove uncertainty. And the harder you work to prevent every possible disruption, the more your body learns that disruption must be dangerous. Every time you avoid the unknown, the nervous system receives the same message. It was good that we escaped. So the fear remains. Sometimes it grows. This is why control can keep you functioning without ever allowing you to feel safe. It can make your life predictable. But predictability is not the same as peace. Peace is not knowing exactly what will happen. Peace is knowing that something can happen and you will still be able to meet yourself there. That does not mean becoming careless. It does not mean abandoning structure. It does not mean forcing yourself to become spontaneous overnight. For someone whose control was built as protection, just let go is not useful advice. The first step is smaller. Notice the moment control stops being a tool and starts becoming a requirement. Notice when a change plan feels like a threat. Notice when preparation becomes punishment. Notice when your mind is no longer solving a problem, but trying to eliminate the possibility of ever being surprised. Then ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I do not stay ahead of this? Maybe the answer is, I will disappoint someone. I will look foolish. I will lose control of the situation. No one else will handle it. I will become the version of myself I promised I would never be again. That answer matters, because beneath the need for control is often not arrogance. It is fear. And beneath the fear is usually a part of you that learned safety must be earned through constant readiness. That part does not need to be shamed. It needs new evidence. Evidence that a plan can change and the day can still be okay. Evidence that someone else can help and the world will not collapse. Evidence that a conversation can go imperfectly and the relationship can survive. Evidence that you can be surprised without becoming powerless. You do not learn this by giving up all control at once. You learn it in small moments. Letting someone else choose the restaurant. Sending the message without reading it 6 more times. Leaving 1 hour of the weekend unplanned. Allowing a trusted person to handle something in their own way. Staying present when the plan changes instead of immediately rebuilding the entire future. Each small moment teaches the body something the mind may already understand. Uncertainty is uncomfortable, but discomfort is not always danger. So how does this sit with you? Did you recognize the optimizer, the contingency planner, the internal rehearser, or the sentinel who never fully stops listening? Maybe you are the person lying in bed on Sunday night watching the week change in front of you. Or maybe you understand now why someone you love goes quiet when plans shift without warning. The question is not whether control has helped you. It probably has. The question is whether the protection that once kept you standing is now preventing you from ever landing. You do not have to know exactly what happens next. You only have to begin trusting that when the next moment arrives, you will not abandon yourself inside it. And maybe that is where safety actually begins.